Hi Year 4 and welcome back. I hope you've had a fabulous half term. This term we are going to be learning all about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse and recycle. So I'm just going to share my screen and then we can get started. Fantastic. Reduce, reuse, recycle, known as the 3 R's. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a quick quiz. So you can either pause the video and go run and get a pen and paper or a whiteboard and pen, or you can do it in your head, or if you're working with someone today, you can just have a quick chat with them. So the first question is, how many tons of natural resources do humans extract and use from the planet every year? So what that question means is, how much in weight do we use in terms of natural resources? That could be anything. It could be trees that we're using. It could be rocks, minerals that we're using. It could be metals that we're using. How many tons of natural resources do we use? So, A, 100 million tons, B, 1 billion tons, C, 60 billion tons, or D, 100 billion tons. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to have a quick think about that. Excellent. All right, so the answer is C, 60 billion tons of natural resources we extract and use every year. Just to give you, because that's a huge number, just to give you an idea in your head, I don't know if you can see the picture on the right hand side, that's the Empire State Building. All right, so 60 billion tons would be the equivalent of 41,000 Empire State Buildings. All right, so that's a lot. Okay, a lot. And for me, the scary thing is that this is 50% more than we were using 30 years ago. So you can quickly do the maths. How many billion tons were we using 30 years ago? Excellent. So 30 years ago, we were using 30 billion tons. And in the last 30 years, which to you might seem like a long time, but to me, that was in my lifetime. So definitely doesn't feel like a long time ago to me. In that time, we have been using 50% more of the Earth's natural resources than we were doing 30 years ago. All right, ready for the next question? So we looked at how much resources we use. This is how much waste does the UK produce every year? So in the United Kingdom, all right, how much waste do we produce every year? Now I've put a picture of a black rhino there because an adult black rhino weighs 1 ton. Okay, just to give you an idea of what type of amounts we're talking about. So, is it A, 10 million tons, B, 110 million tons, C, 220 million tons, or D, 330 million tons? Okay, some good guessing going on. I'm going to give you the answer now. It is C, 220 million tons. All right. And And again, a slightly scary statistic for me anyway, is in the year 2000, which was only 21 years ago, the UK produced about 100 million tonnes. So again, in those 20 odd years, we've doubled the amount of waste that we produce in the UK every year. So the waste, we're talking about rubbish and things that we don't need anymore. So, as you probably know, some of our waste we recycle, all right? Some of it is biodegradable, okay? That means it will naturally rot away, all right? And some of it goes to landfill, all right? And this is often the waste that can't be recycled, can't biodegrade, all right? And it is basically put in a big hole and covered up, all right? And so it's the disposable of waste that we don't need, all right? So out of that 220 million tonnes, all right, of waste that we produce in the UK, how much do you think goes to landfill? And landfill isn't very good for the environment or for the fact that none of this waste can be recycled. All right, so let's think about how much do we think goes to landfill. So we've got A, 1 tonne, B, 7,000 tonnes, C, 1 million tonnes, or D, 7.4 million tonnes. Excellent, Year 4. All right, so if you guessed D, 7.4 million tonnes, you were right. Well done. So, household waste is all the waste that comes out of our households, all right? So there's waste from things like factories, there's waste from chemical plants, there's waste from other things, but household is people's houses, all right? So what percentage of household waste, so the things that we throw away, is recycled, all right? And so most of you probably know this, but when you recycle something, this is when you convert waste that you no longer need into a reusable material. So do you think it's A, 80%, B, 45%, C, 25%, or D, 10%? Well done, those of you that guessed B, 45%. Okay, now the European Union has a target of everyone in Europe recycling 50%. So we're just below that. So that's what we're aiming for. I think the government would like us to be at 50% because that's what the EU, the European Union, said it should be a minimum. Okay, so we're just below that at the moment in the UK. Final question. All right, so you've probably seen in supermarkets that there's a lot of packaging on food. All right. What percentage of this packaging from supermarkets and things do you think is recycled or recovered? So that means it doesn't end up in landfill, it ends up somewhere else, either being recycled or used again or recovered and taken somewhere else. Which percentage do you think that is? Do you think it's 70%, 45%, 25% or 10%? Excellent. Well done, those of you who guessed A, 70%. So it's actually quite high for the percentage of packaging that we recycle in this country. All right, so I just wanted us to have a quick quiz just to get us thinking about how many things, what we're using, how many tons of natural materials we're using every year and the waste that we're producing because of that. And as I said, our topic is going to be reduce, reuse and recycle. And today we're just going to go over some of the definitions of that and what we can do to help encourage ourselves to do those things. So, as we said, reduce is to use fewer resources in the first place. All right, so not to use those things in the first place. Can you think how we can do this? I'm going to give you maybe 10 seconds to think how we can reduce our waste, not use things in the first place. Excellent. I'm sure there's some fantastic ideas. One of the key things is buy less. All right, one of the things we could do is just buy less things. All right, we can choose products with less packaging. So instead of getting the apples that are packaged in plastic, we could get the ones that are loose, all right, and are not covered in plastic. We can use a reusable water bottle, and some of you might have seen, your adults might have reusable things like coffee cups. We can remember to take bags with us when we go shopping. All right, so instead of getting new bags each time, we can get a reusable bag or take old bags with us when we go shopping. And we can refill items instead of buying new ones. So I know, for example, quite a lot of washing detergent now, you can get a big bottle, and instead of throwing it away, you just go and get more detergent in the bottle as opposed to buying a whole new bottle. There's some other things that we can do that isn't directly affecting our waste, but indirectly affects what we are using. And those are things like turning off lights and having shorter showers and walking instead of driving. All these things will reduce our waste, and I'm sure you've thought of lots more too. What about reuse? Okay, so this is when you use materials more than once in their original form instead of throwing them away after each use. And what this means is that new resources aren't being used as often, and old resources are not going into the waste, into landfills and things like that. So, can you think of any examples of where we can reuse things, either in our houses or at school? So these were a few that I was thinking of. So, for example, the plastic cereal bags that come inside the box, you could use those to wrap your sandwiches in, or to put food in the freezer or in the fridge. Plastic food containers, and I know lots of people do this already, for example, like butter. You can reuse them to store other foods once they're empty. So you could reuse them to store soup, for example. And this is a really good one, which I think I'm going to try out. You could use plastic bottles to plant your flowers in, right? So you could cut a plastic bottle in half, fill it with soil, hang it up, you've got a fantastic flower holder. So there's just a few that I thought of. And the final thing is recycle. All right, so this is where we convert our waste materials into new products. All right, and it changes them from their original form by physical and chemical processes. So in a way, we can't really do recycling at home, but we can recycle. All right, so it's not a process that we can do at home, but we can put our things in the right places so that they end up being recycled. And although recycling uses energy, it helps to prevent new resources from being used and old materials from entering the waste system. And I guess the best way of doing this is recycling your things. So lots of households have recycling, where the council comes up and picks your recycling up. But there's other places where you can recycle things. So there's dumps. So if you've got big items, you can go and put them in the dumps. And often supermarkets have recycling centres where you can recycle some of your things. All right, so what I would like you to do today is I would like you to make a 3 R's poster about the reduce, reuse and recycle, and I'm going to show you exactly how now. So Year 4, this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to produce a poster of the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. These were just a couple that I found that I quite liked. So the one on the left's got a list of all the things that you could do to reduce your waste. Then it's got a list of things that you can do to reuse and a list of things that you can recycle. And again, the one on the right is just a kind of pictorial example of that. Specifically, I would like you to have a title of reduce, reuse and recycle. I would like you to explain what each of those terms mean. So I have done the first one for you. So reduce, which is to use fewer resources in the first place. And then I would like you to explain how, a little bit like we've just been doing in the lesson. How can we reduce? So I've just got some examples there. Use a reusable water bottle, have shorter showers, turn off the lights and buy less. I would also really like it if you could illustrate your poster. You can make it as creative as possible or as you like, or you can keep it nice and factual. You can use some of the statistics that we used in the quiz at the beginning of the lesson, or you could even do your own research. You can find out about reduce, reuse and recycle. But the key things I would like you to include is a title, an explanation of what that term means and how we can do it. How can we reduce? How can we reuse? And how can we recycle? So with the recycling bit, you might also want to put what can we recycle? Excellent. Right. Well, I am very much looking forward to seeing your work on Seesaw Year 4, and I will see you next week. Bye.